Hey programmers, welcome to your 12th Java tutorial, and in today's tutorial we're going to be talking about how we can use for loops to loop through arrays and manipulate values and reference values within them. Now for example, say we had a string array called myShoppingList, and we initialized that to a new string array of size 5, and then we added 5 things to it: Toblerone, sardines, flowers, Pringles, and ice creams. And then say we wanted to print out every single thing in the entire array. Well, what we'd have to do is we'd have to say system.out.println number 0, system.out.println number 1, and we'd have to write 5 lines of code to print out every single thing in the array. Now that might seem tedious, and it is, but imagine if we had an array of size 1000 and we wanted to print everything in the array. We would have to type out 1,000 lines of just print statements, and that would totally suck and be a huge waste of time. So, the way that we can avoid having to type out a jillion different print statements when we want to print out a few different things from an array is we can use a for loop to iterate through the ith element of an array, changing I from the very first element all the way up to the highest indexed element, in this case the fourth element. Now the way we do that is we say, okay, which index in the array would we like to start with? Well, in this case we're going to be starting with the 0th element in the array, and we're going to say while I is less than 5, because every number under 5 is in our array, but once we get to 5, well, that's bigger than our array. So if we try to talk about the 5th element of our array, which doesn't exist, we're going to get an error. And that's where a lot of the confusion of indexing comes in, since we always start indexing at 0. And every time we loop through the array, we're going to add 1 to I. So now, in each iteration of the loop, we're going to be talking about one element of the array. And in the next iteration, we're going to be talking about the next element in the array. So, for every iteration of the loop, we're going to print out the element that is inside the shopping list. So let's just run that. So let's talk about what happened here. We're going to start at 0. And we're going to say system.out.println myShoppingList at I. And now I is 0, so we're going to be printing out the 0th element of the array. Then I is going to get plussed by 1, and we're going to say, okay, system.out.println myShoppingList at I, which is now 1. So then we're going to print out sardines. We're going to plus I again, and so we're going to print out flowers, and then Pringles, and then ice creams. Once we get to ice creams, I is going to get plussed again, and then I is going to equal 5, and we're going to break out of this loop, and then we're going to terminate the program. Now that we understand that, I'm going to show you something super useful on how to deal with arrays in a for loop. Now instead of saying I equals less than 5, because that only applies to arrays of size 5, and we might not be dealing with an array of size 5, we can actually say myShoppingList.length, and that is a value of how long our array is. So now, as long as I is less than the length of the array is going to be 1 larger than the final index. We have to make sure we're saying I is less than the length of the array. If we change that less than symbol to a double equals symbol, it will be checking the 5th element of this array, which actually doesn't exist. Since the length is 5, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 is 5 elements, we're going to have to say less than, because if we say equals to, we're going to go 1 further than we're meant to on the array. So make sure you use less than for this. So that is how we can use for loops to loop through our arrays. Make sure you go down to the description and check out the challenges that I've left there for you. There's an easy one, an intermediate one, and a difficult one, and make sure you share your solutions in the comments.